Welcome to my 7th grade curriculum picks for next year. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I just sat here and talked for like 40 minutes and I wasn't even recording anything. Let's try that again. Hey, welcome back to Regular Secular Mama. If you're new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a homeschool mom to 2 kiddos, currently ages 10 and 12 years old. Before we get into it, you should know that this video is part of a collaboration hosted by me. All this week, my friends and I are sharing our curriculum picks for next year. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You'll get notified when I post a new video, and you can bookmark the link for that playlist from my description below. So I'll just get right into it. I'm gonna go one subject at a time, starting with language arts. Now, language arts encompasses a whole lot of things. It's not just, reading and writing. So I'll just go like one thing at a time. First, reading. Now, we use Build Your Library for history, and we also use it for our literature read-alouds and our independent readers. So each of my kids has a reader or a book that they read on their own, and I kind of buddy read it with them usually. We are in level 6 of Build Your Library, which is American history or modern American history, and that's pretty close to her age level and her reading level. So mostly we're going to be sticking to that schedule as far as the books that we're reading. Now, there may come a time where we've already read a book or, she's just flat out not interested. So I'm fine with swapping out books, but I did a lot of that last year and it became kind of convoluted and confusing. So as much as possible, I'm going to try to just stick to the schedule and keep my life simple next year. To go along with reading, what I'm going to have my kids do is keep a notebook, like a reading journal, only this is a very loose and free form kind of reading journal. They're just going to narrate every day something that they read in their, in their reading, or any thoughts they had on their reading, any questions that they're left with. This is not even something that I'm going to grade or even read very much, but it's just for them to do on their own. This is actually what's called an altered composition book. If you're interested, search on YouTube, and it's just a fun way to kind of customize some notebooks for yourself. This is just like a cheap, inexpensive, regular composition book, and you use Mod Podge or some sort of, glue or adhesive to put scrapbook paper or some sort of decoration on the outside. And so I did that. I used Mod Podge and then I did a layer over the top. I don't know if you can see the glare from that, but it kind of sealed it in, and I think this is going to be really durable. And yeah, so my kids are going to make their own notebooks for next year, and I think that'll be just like a fun way for them to customize for themselves. Another thing we're going to be using for reading is School Nest Reading Journal. Now, when I got this, my first thought was it would be something like that composition book, but this is really more like thoughts on the book after reading it, and kind of like a book review. So most of the pages in here are the exact same. They're just a book review page where they can give it a star rating or share their thoughts on it or draw a picture. So they've really been enjoying doing this at the end of, when they finish one of their readers. So we'll continue this next year. All right, for writing or composition, most of this school year, my daughter used Writing with Skill. I think you can tell which one's hers and which one's mine. These are chunky books. I'm gonna put these down. But we used Writing with Skill for most of her writing for this year. We really liked it. I like that it was written to the student, so she could do that mostly on her own without me. There were some times though where we had to kind of sit down and work through something to try to make sure she understood and was applying those ideas, in the way that it was meant to. It's been a really good program for her. I do see a lot of improvement in her writing, so we will continue doing that, but we have been doing it basically at half speed, where we do 2 days a week instead of 4. The other 2 days of the week, she has been working through Killgallon's middle school sentence composing. She is almost completely done with this book, but we will continue this next year, probably the same way, where we do 2 days of this and 2 days of Writing with Skill. And then when she's done with this one, I thought about maybe working in the paragraph composing book, but I haven't purchased it yet and I don't have it on hand, so I don't know what it looks like yet. One other thing we're going to kind of add to our writing toolbox is Evan-Moor's Daily 6 Trait Writing. I don't have it ordered yet, so I'll include a screenshot here so you can see what it looks like. But I did print out the sample of it and showed it to my daughter. She seemed to like the way it looks. It's a little more, I don't know, it's a little more structured and straightforward as far as like what it is you're asked to do. Writing with Skill is a really good program and I have seen improvement, but I would say it's a little bit more, what's the word? Conceptual, I guess. It's not always super clear cut what it is they need to do in order to produce a good piece of writing. So with the 6 Trait Writing from Evan-Moor, it's a little bit more clear cut. It's like, here's your topic, here's how to choose a topic, here's what you need to include for your details, and like structuring the paragraph nicely. So I'm gonna purchase it, we're going to try it, and we'll just work it in somehow. The last sort of language arts thing that she's using is Getty Dubay's handwriting workbooks. If you're not familiar with Getty Dubay, this is like an approach to handwriting that's a lot more natural than what you typically see in handwriting workbooks. It's italicized handwriting, so there's a bit of a slant to it, and it segues really nicely into cursive. So they move gradually through italicized handwriting, and then they start joining some of the letters, and then eventually you have, you know, full-on cursive. So she's worked through the book before this, the C book, and she's, I think, almost done with this one. So I'll go ahead and purchase the next book, and we'll just continue doing like a page of this every day. Her handwriting was definitely taking a turn for the worse this last school year, and so I wanted to make sure to get a handle on that. It's not the end of the world if she doesn't have good handwriting, but it actually made it really hard for me to read what she was writing and turning into me. So anyway, we're gonna continue using that. The next subject I'm gonna touch on is science. Now, I've mentioned in a couple of videos that we were using Real Science Odyssey's biology for level 2. It is meant for middle school or even maybe 9th grade, you know, into high school. I really like the biology course and I think it's a really good one. I don't think it was a really good fit for my daughter though, and I'll get into that later when I do a review of biology, but we actually dropped it. We were at about week 30, so we were almost done with it, but it was just causing a lot of heartache and a lot of confusion, so I dropped it. I just didn't want to fight her on it anymore. I don't think it's a bad program at all, and it's definitely, you know, going to depend on your lifestyle and your family. Anyway, we dropped biology. We're not going to continue it next year like I thought we were going to. Instead, what I did is I checked out Khan Academy. So my goals for science for my daughter are to just get a good foundation of middle school level science topics. That way, when she enters high school science courses, she has, you know, something to build on. We've touched on almost every science topic with her all through elementary school, so I'm not really concerned with going in really deep on these topics, but I still want to make sure that she's at least exposed to it. So with Khan Academy, you can set it up where you have like your own course that can pull from different courses that they offer. So what I did is I set up a middle school science course that she's in, and it pulls from, I think they have 3 middle school science options. There's biology, physics, and earth science, I think. I think those are the 3 that they offer. She will be working through those kind of at her own pace, just like a certain amount of time every day. And it's really interesting how Khan Academy sets it up. They have kind of a mastery-based approach. So you set a goal for how well you want them to master certain content, and then they just work toward that goal. And it's actually not as easy to reach this goal as I thought it might be. She's having to really work and like review and study things in order to master them. I'm still a little bit new to Khan Academy, but if you're interested in seeing how I set this up, or, you know, hearing more about us using Khan Academy, comment down below and I'll be sure to bump that up my like video priority list. For science, there's one other resource that I would really like to work in somehow, and I haven't exactly decided how I'm going to use it yet, but that is How to Ace Middle School Science, I think is what it's called. There's going to be a picture here that you can see what it looks like. I checked it out from our local library and I really like the look of it, so I'm going to purchase it and figure out some way to kind of work that into her science study for next year. If you have any ideas on how I can use that resource, definitely comment down below and let me know what you think, because I'm still not sure yet how I'm going to use it. We have always used Math-U-See. Now, I know Math-U-See is something that not everybody considers a secular resource. There are places where you're not allowed to mention it. I can say as a secular homeschooler and somebody who feels very strongly about using secular materials that it has worked fine for us. The only thing we didn't use was the audio for the skip counting songs, but we have used all the levels from primary all the way through Zeta, and I have not found anything really that I object to in those levels. That said, you might want to check it out yourself and just make sure it's something you want to use. My daughter just finished up the Zeta levels, so she would be going on to pre-algebra. Now, I don't really have anything against Math UC's upper level math. They have pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and pre-calculus and calculus, so they could go through all the levels, right? But I felt like maybe the upper level math wasn't quite enough in case she wanted to go into something in college that needed a little bit more rigorous math. If she continues on an artistic path and goes into something in the arts, I think that Math UC upper level math would be perfectly fine. However, I just want to make sure we cover all our bases and prepare her for whatever it is she wants to do in the future. Also, we are trying for more independent stuff with her. Most of her individual subjects are things that she does not need me for, and that works really well for her and it works really well for me. Math UC is pretty easy to teach and it's something that she can do mostly on her own, but I do have to sit down and like teach her the lesson at the beginning of the week and then of course go over her worksheets, grade her tests and things like that. So our goals for math were to find something a little bit more independent that she doesn't need me as much for, and to find something that was going to be a little bit better college prep if that's the route she goes. So there are two curriculum options that we narrowed it down to. One is Thinkwell pre-algebra. They have video instruction. The videos look very concise and easy to follow and well done. They also have the online practice component that is like self-grading. So that is really nice because then I don't have to sit down and grade her stuff. She doesn't even have to sit down and check her own answers. She can just do it on the computer and have it all self-graded there. On the flip side of that, they also have an option to purchase or to print out the printed notes and printed practice worksheets. So you can get both printed practice, on paper and doing it online and having it self-graded. So I think that looks like a really good option. From everything I've heard, it's rigorous and does a really good job of preparing for college level math. I have a feeling that's gonna be the one we go with, but there is a second option that we were looking at, and that is Art of Problem Solving. It's been touted as math for math lovers, so I'm not entirely sure that that's going to be the right fit for us, but it's something that she was interested in trying. So we are going to try both of those. I've got samples of both pre-algebra for, both curriculum. Now, Art of Problem Solving does have online classes. However, they're very expensive and it is not something that I wanted to spend quite so much money to put her in if I didn't need to. Thinkwell is a little bit pricey, but it's not too terrible in my opinion. And I heard that there are sales on Homeschool Buyers Co-op, or whatever they changed their name to. The website's different now. I'll put a link down in the description, of course, so you can get to it, but they often have sales for Thinkwell's online program. Anyway, so Art of Problem Solving, if you don't go with the online class, which is very, very expensive, you can simply buy the textbook and work through the textbook and the exercises in the textbook on your own. And then to go along with the lessons or each chapter in the textbook, there are some short videos that, go over the different concepts on Art of Problem Solving's website, and those are free to watch. So like I said, we're going to explore both options and we're going to try samples from both of those curricula. I have one more course that my daughter is going to use next year for 7th grade, and that is History Compass from Pandia Press. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to categorize this. I guess it's just an elective, but the course it's not exactly history and it's not exactly writing. It's more like how to approach history studies like a historian would. So it's like how to be a good historian, how to research and write like a historian. It touches on everything from bias to using primary resources, to gathering your own information, like with interviews and things like that. It's something that I thought looked really interesting. It's brand new from Pandia Press, so there's not a whole lot out there on it yet, but we're gonna try it. It's meant to be covered over half of a school year, but we're going to take it probably about half speed and spread it out throughout the whole school year. This is probably going to include some like writing heavy weeks or topics. So on weeks like that where she has, you know, extra writing to do for History Compass, we'll probably, you know, slack off a little when it comes to our other writing. I feel like we're quickly entering that stage where writing becomes just a way to express what it is that they're learning rather than a separate subject all on its own. Those are all of the individual subjects that my daughter is going to be using next year. Next, I have all of our loop subjects. So you may have heard me mention something called loop jars before. I actually shared a video last week where I talked a little bit more about what that is and how I set it up for my kids. Basically, it's my take on like a loop schedule. So these are things that we don't have to do every single day, but we do want to touch on at some point. What they do is they, you know, choose one item every day from their loop jar and grab that thing and just like work through a little bit at a time. The first thing that I have for their loop jar is a big life journal. So my son has this one as well. I think his is actually for kids and this one's more for teens. This one was actually a holiday gift from a family member, and we have been putting it to good use. This has been especially nice for my daughter at her age. She's, you know, going through a lot of changes and things, so this has been a good way for her to kind of be like intentional when she's trying on personalities and building that growth mindset. It's not always something that I think to talk about or that comes to mind in the moment, so I like that she has a way to kind of work through those ideas. Another thing that she works on is her spelling. We no longer do spelling every day as like a regular core subject, but I do include workbooks like this to kind of keep her skills sharp. I'm not super concerned with keeping her like on grade level for this, so I just have this that she worked on last year. She's maybe halfway through, so we'll just continue working on it. I have another book from Critical Thinking Company, and this is Word Roots. For each of my kids, I like to have some way for them to kind of be exposed to or even memorize their Latin and Greek stems because they're just used in so many words. So this is one that we chose. My daughter, you know, isn't averse to it. I don't think it's particularly exciting. All the lessons are very much the same structure, but it does give her some good practice on words based in like Latin and Greek stems. The next thing for her loop jar is something that I honestly could care less that she works on, but I think she likes including this for like the nostalgia. We have been using Explode the Codebook since the beginning of our homeschool, so she really enjoys, you know, doing these. They're just really cute. They've got these like hand-drawn pictures in them. Not something I, you know, am very worried about, but she likes it, so we'll include it. Next, we have Map Skills for Today from Scholastic. This is a really nice way for them to practice their map skills. They have nice full color maps. They're really kind of glossy, but, you know, easy to write on still. And they include everything from, you know, looking at highways to things like latitude and longitude. So this has been a really good option for them just to make sure that they understand what they're looking at when they look at like a real map versus like a map in Build Your Library where they're, you know, labeling different countries and things. Plus, these are only $5. Like, it was a no-brainer to include this. Here's some more Critical Thinking Company workbooks for them. This is what I call logic. So they just pick out some workbooks that look interesting that are loosely related to logical thinking. This one is called Pattern Explorer, and it's got some really fun patterns in here, including one called Balance Benders. There's a whole workbook actually with just balance benders that was really fun, but this one has like tons of different patterns in it. This one is more like solving a case based on clues and having to like think logically about those clues in order to figure out who done it. So these are really fun for them to do. The last loop item that I have for my daughter is typing. Now, we used to do this in her loop jar, but actually she's moved to doing this every single day. We just use typing.com, and so she goes on there and practices her typing maybe 15 minutes a day. It's a very low stress thing, but I want her to make sure she's got these skills down because she's getting to the age where she's going to probably be typing a lot more of her writing stuff. That's all I have for my 7th grade curriculum picks. Don't forget, we're going to be sharing these curriculum picks all week long. Next up, I'll have my curriculum picks that we're going to be using as a group next year. So definitely hit the bell for notifications. That way you know when I get that one posted. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!